Hello everyone, it's Masai here, and today we're going to do something really exciting. So we're going to build today is called a RAG database. RAG is short for Retrieval Augmented Generation. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a folder from OneDrive, we're going to have some PDFs in there, and we're going to be able to upload that into a database so that we can have an assistant that is trained on those documents, that can pull information from those documents, and we can chat back and forth with that assistant. You'll be able to take a lot of these abstract concepts that I'm sure you've been hearing about in artificial intelligence, whether that is semantic search, vector databases, AI agents, or you're going to be able to take those abstract concepts and be able to see them in a much more concrete way. You can have an actual AI application that you can use and apply it to your own firm. RAG is probably the single most useful application of artificial intelligence for any profession that is dealing with a large number of documents, right? So whether you're an attorney, you have a lot of files related to your case, or whether you're processing a lot of invoices, whatever it is. If you're in a situation where you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of documents, RAG is the most useful application of artificial intelligence in your business. And so essentially, what a RAG system comprises of a few different parts, right? So you have the brain of the system, which is the language model. So whether you use OpenAI or Claude, whatever you use for that brain, that is one component of the system. You could also have a local model, which we're going to talk about later, where you could have an AI model on your own computer, on your own infrastructure, have it hosted right there. But we'll talk about that later. You have a brain, and you have a database, and you have retrievers. You can imagine that the brain is like your legal assistant. The database is like a library of different legal documents and cases and all that kind of stuff in a library. That's the database, right? So it has a bunch of different information and much different files in it. And then the retriever is sort of like the librarian. Maybe you ask the assistant to give you information about cases relevant to a specific judge, right? But the assistant doesn't know off the top of their brain about that specific judge, right? So what the assistant is going to do is they're going to go and they're going to talk to the librarian, which is the retriever, and they're going to tell the retriever, hey, I need files that pertain to this specific judge. Can you please grab them? And the retriever or the librarian will go off to the database or the library and grab those files and those cases, bring it back to the assistant, which again is, in this analogy, is the language model, is the brain of the system. And then with the assistant having the proper context, the proper files from the library, it can then give you a much more accurate response, right? Usually when talking to attorneys, their main concerns around using artificial intelligence are accuracy and security, right? Is this information going to be kept secure and confidential, and is it actually going to be accurate? As you've been paying attention to the news, a lot of attorneys have been getting in trouble recently for using artificial intelligence to create briefs. They've been getting in trouble when AI hallucinates in those briefs. So RAG gives you some protection against hallucination. We're going to get in now. We're actually going to build out a RAG system in front of your own eyes. If you follow along and pay attention here, you'll be able to have a RAG system up and running, but we're going to go through and build that now. Okay, so now we're going to get started. I'm going to show you how you can actually build this out yourself. I'm currently self-hosting, but you can access N8N just by going into your browser and searching for N8N, and then going to n8n.io, and then you can get started on a free plan, or they have a few different plans that you can choose from. They have a free trial, and you can get started here on N8N. You can do exactly what I'm doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come into N8N. I'm going to create a workflow, and then the first thing that we're going to build out is actually the RAG pipeline. So when I say RAG pipeline, this is what's actually going to allow us to upload our documents, take our documents from OneDrive, break them up, and upload them into our database so we can access them later on. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need a trigger node. We're going to need two trigger nodes, actually. So the trigger nodes that we're going to get are going to be trigger nodes for whenever a file is created or whenever a file is updated. So what we're going to have it do is we're going to have it watch our folder, and whenever a file is created in this folder or whenever a file is updated in this folder, that is when this workflow will run. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to add two triggers in here. Here's one trigger, and then we're going to add another trigger. I have OneDrive. So what trigger? I think that was created, file created, and file updated. So now we have these two triggers here. And I can name these. I'm going to call this one file created, and I'm going to call the other one file updated. So I have these two files here. I'm going to show you how you can connect your OneDrive account to N8N. I'm going to show you how you can do it if you're self-hosting. I believe if you are going to use it, which most of you guys probably will do, if you're just going to go to n8n.com and buy a subscription, then it should be much easier. They should allow you to just connect just by logging into your OneDrive account. It should be a lot easier than what I'm going to show you now. But in case you do decide to, down the line, host this on your own servers or your own infrastructure for security reasons or whatever it may be, I am going to show you how you can connect I am going to show you how you can connect your OneDrive account into N8N so you can actually build workflows with it. So, and this is the most difficult part of the entire flow because it's just a pain. So I'm going to call this YouTube demo account. And then we are going to go and we're going to connect this. And the good thing about N8N is they have documentation for everything. So this documentation basically explains to you what you need to do in order to fill out these fields. So what we're going to have to do here, and again, you're only going to have to do this once is a good thing. Once you've connected your OneDrive account into N8N, you don't have to do it again. You just have to build the credential one time. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to Microsoft Azure. You're going to just go to azure.microsoft.com, and then we're going to sign into our account. So we're going to log into our Microsoft Azure account, and then we're going to go into the search bar here on the top, and we're going to search for app registrations. We're going to click on that. We're going to open this up, and then we are going to click right here and create a new registration. Then from there, I'll call this legal YouTube demo. For this section here, supported account types, we're going to select accounts in any organizational directory. So select this here, and then the redirect URI, we are going to fill this in with the redirect URI from N8N. This is going to allow us to connect back to N8N. So we go into our workflow, we grab our redirect URL from here, copy, we go back into our Azure account, paste this in here, and then when we select the platform, we're going to select the web. Move my head out the way again, and then we click register. Okay, and then from here, we are going to have a few things. We need to grab our client ID, which is right here, where it says application client ID. We're going to grab that. We can just click copy. We're going to grab that. We're going to pop it in right here into our N8N account. Then we're going to create our secrets. We have to fill in our client ID here, and then we also have to fill in our client secret. It's kind of like our username and our password. So we have to go and create that. We go back into our Azure account, and then we're going to go down to where it says certificates and secrets. We're going to click on this. We're going to click create new client secret, and then I'll call this YouTube demo. Call this YouTube demo, and then you can choose a time frame for here. 6 months is recommended, but you can select whatever time frame you want. 24 months if you want, or whatever time frame you want to select. And then we're going to click add to get this secret, and this secret is going to allow us to access our OneDrive files from our app. And so what we're going to grab here is we're going to grab the value. So where it says value here, we're going to copy that. We're going to go back into N8N. We're going to paste that here, and then we're going to click connect to my account. This is going to open up a new tab. We're going to click the relevant account. We're going to click accept, and then we'll see that the connection is successful. This tab will close in a couple of seconds, and we'll see that the connection has been tested and it was successful. And so now this is probably one of the hardest parts of this entire workflow, is actually setting up that credential, and that is done now. So that's how you can set up your OneDrive credential. And once I start using this, I can use this later on to actually check my files and grab files from my OneDrive account and use them later on in my workflows. The other thing that we have to set up is we have to set up a Supabase database. So I'm going to show you how you can create that. And so again, to get your Supabase database set up, you're just going to go to supabase.com. This is again Supa, not super, Supa. Supabase.com. You can log in, you can get an account here, and you can pretty much do everything that you need to do with the free plan. I build things on here, and I pretty much use the free plan for everything. And then you're just going to go into your organization. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new project so I can show you how to do this. So I'm going to call this YouTube demo. And then you're going to need a password for this. So you're going to have to generate your own password here, and make sure that you keep this password. Make sure you keep it somewhere safe, because you're going to need it later on to use in your N8N workflow. So I'm going to go and make this password and put it back in, and I'll be right back. So I went off, generated a password. I'm going to put that in here. and then region is fine. You can leave that as it is. You're gonna click create new project. Okay, and so now once we've created the project, now we need to actually create the database where we're gonna be storing our documents. I'm gonna show you exactly how you can do that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our SQL editor and we're gonna run a little bit of SQL just to actually create the documents. I'll also leave the SQL in the description so you can just grab it, copy it, and paste it in here. So you're gonna click new SQL snippet and you're gonna paste exactly what is in here. Again, it will be in the description. So you can just grab it and use it in Supabase yourself. So you're just gonna paste the SQL into this tab here. We're just creating a table. We're also creating our embeddings here. This lets you know how many dimensions we're gonna have in our embedding. So how many numbers you're gonna see in that long number string. And then we're running a few of these things real quick. But all you have to do is, again, I'm gonna leave it in the description for you so you can just copy it, paste it in here, and just click run right here, the bottom right. And once we see this here, success, no rows returned, now we can go over to the side tab. We can click on table editor and we can see our new table has been formed. We have documents here and we have different columns for ID, for the text that we're gonna have in here, for the metadata that we're gonna include. Metadata is data about the data. So when we store the URL of the file, the name of the file, all that good stuff that's related to the text, we're gonna store it in here. And then the embedding of the text is gonna be stored in here as well. So now that we've created our database in Supabase, I'm gonna show you how you can take this database and how we can integrate with it in our N8N workflow. So again, we're just gonna go over to this plus button, go ahead and click Supabase. We are going to choose, we're gonna use this later on, so delete a row. I'm gonna show you how you can integrate with it. So what we're gonna do here is gonna create a credential, call this credential YouTube demo. We need our host and we need our service role secret. I'm gonna show you we can find both of those. Okay, so we're gonna go to our project settings, and then we are gonna go to where it says data API, and we're gonna grab our project URL. So we're gonna grab this, copy this endpoint here, this URL, and then we're gonna go back into N8N. We're gonna drop that URL into this host section, and then we're gonna go and grab our secret from Supabase as well. So we're gonna go not in data API, but in API keys where you can find that above. And then we're gonna reveal and copy our service role secret. We're gonna paste that into the service role secret section. We're gonna click save. And then we can see that the connection has been tested successfully. So we are connected with Supabase. So we've connected OneDrive, we've connected Supabase. And the last thing that we're gonna need to connect is we're gonna need to connect our Postgres chat memory. And one of the most important components of an AI agent is memory. So you have to store the chat memory that you have with your agent somewhere, and we're gonna use Postgres to store the chat memory we have with our agent. So we're just gonna click on memory, we're gonna go Postgres chat memory, and then I'm gonna show you how you can integrate, how you can create a credential, because you're gonna have to do the same thing again. You have to come up here, create a credential. I promise this is the last credential to create. And we're going to fill in all these fields, and then that will allow us to have a credential where we can store the history of all our chat conversations in our Postgres database. So, and again, the good thing about Postgres is it's already supported by Supabase. So you don't have to go in and get another Postgres account or anything like that. This is the same database that we created earlier on. When we created the password for that database, we're going to use that same information to fill out this credential. So we're going to go back to Supabase again. So we're going to go to connect on the top of the screen. We're going to click connect. And so we're going to scroll down and we're going to go to where it says transaction pooler. And this is all the information that we need for our Postgres integration. So for the host, we're going to grab this URL here, copy this, paste that into the host section. For database, we're going to leave it as Postgres. We're going to grab the port here. We're going to copy this, go over to our port, paste this. We're going to go and grab our user, copy this, user, yeah, we're going to grab our user, paste that in here. And then our password, again, I know you guys remembered to save your password somewhere safe. The same password we created earlier on when we were setting up our Supabase account, and we had to create a database password. That is the password we're going to fill in here to be able to connect with Postgres. I'm going to go off, I'm going to grab that password, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've grabbed my password, I've inputted my password in here, and then I'm going to click save in the top right. And you can see again, my connection has been tested successfully. So now I have this set up. And I'm going to be saving all of my chats in this Postgres database, which we'll be able to see later on in Supabase when we build everything out. And so from now on, all we're going to be doing is actually building the workflow out. So we've set up all the integrations that we need, and all we're going to do now is just build the workflow. We have our trigger nodes set up already so that whenever a file is created or updated in a folder, this workflow will run. The first thing that we're actually going to do is we're going to set this up so that it knows which folder to watch. So we're going to open this here, trigger on file created. We're going to click this watch folder. And then when it says by ID, there's two ways you can choose which folder to watch. You can either do by ID or by URL. We're going to do by ID. And all we're going to do is we're going to go back into our OneDrive account. We're going to open our folder, and then we're going to go to the URL. And where it says ID equals, we're going to highlight all the way from the end of the equal sign. We're going to highlight all the way until this and sign. So we're going to copy all of that, and we're going to put that in here. Just file created, so I should be able to test this now. And so once I run it and test it, I can see again the same PDF that we saw earlier. I have the ID, I have the name of the PDF, Brown versus Board PDF, I have the URL for the PDF, and I have the type, which is again application PDF. So we have the ID in here, and it's just going to watch that folder. And anytime anything is created or updated in that folder, it's going to update that information into our database as well. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to watch inside a folder. By folder ID, I'm going to paste that same ID that we pasted before. And then I'm going to save this. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect this to a loop. So all I have to do is search for loop here. Grab a loop, close this out. You can delete this here, you can delete this. And we're going to connect both our file created and file updated into a loop. And we're doing this because, again, you may have a situation where you're uploading multiple files into your folder, maybe 5 or 6 or 10 files, and we want to loop over that. We want to make sure that every single file is getting updated into our database, so we always have up-to-date information when we're interacting with our agent. So we're creating this loop step, and it's going to split the batches into a size of 1. That just means it's going to do 1 file at a time. You could change this if you wanted to, but that might make it a bit more complicated, so I'll just keep it at 1. So we're going to loop over these items, and then the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to choose a set node. So we're going to go set, and then we're going to set some values in here. So we're going to run the steps before. So we ran those nodes, and we're going to grab some information. So we can see all this information here on the left. This is the thing about N8N is that you can see the information as it's passing through the workflow. So on the left, we can see the information that's coming into this node, and on the right, we can see the information that will be coming out of this node. So what we're going to be grabbing is the ID of the file, because we want to set a variable for the ID of the file. We're going to be grabbing the name of the file. We're going to be grabbing the URL, and we are going to grab the type of the file. So this is a PDF, and we're going to grab that type as well. So for the file ID, I'm just going to call it file_ID. I'm going to grab this here. I'm just going to drag it and drop it here into the value section. And then I'll do it for the next section, the next part, which will be file name. I'll call that file_name. I'll grab the name from the earlier step, drop that in here. Then for the next one, I will choose file URL, go file_URL. I'll drag and drop that here. Then I will add the file type, file_type, and then I will drag the type of the file into this section here. And so now when I test this step, I will see that all of my variables are set up so that I have the ID, the name, the URL, and the type of file attached to these variables from the earlier step. So when I open up here again, I can see I have the file ID, I have the file name, file URL, and the file type, and that's going to help us later on. So the next thing that we need to do before we actually download this file and upload it into our database is we need to make sure that we are deleting any rows in our table that match the ID of the file that we're uploading, because we don't want any duplicates. We don't want to keep uploading the same file over and over again. So we're going to do that using Supabase. And again, just to show you, and you're just going to click this plus button in the top right. You're going to click Supabase, and then you're going to go delete a row. And then again, we already connected our credentials. So all I have to do is open this credential here and select the credential that you created. We're going to delete a row. Table name is documents, which we created earlier. And then we are going to click string, and we're going to write a string out that is basically going to allow us to delete any chunks that have the same ID as the file we're about to upload. So that makes sure we don't have any duplicates. So you just want to copy exactly what you see here, metadata dash forward arrow file underscore ID equals like dot asterisk, and then this variable here, JSON.file ID. Again, just copy it exactly as you see it here, and then an asterisk to end at the end. And all this is going to do is going to check our database and make sure that nothing that we're currently uploading already exists in the database. And if it does, it's going to delete that so that we don't have any duplicates. This is also going to be extremely helpful for when you need to update files and folders. So when you have a new version of a file that you're uploading, you can make sure that's automatically going to delete the old file. Or if you make a change to a file, maybe you go in and you write something different in an SOP or something like that, you can make sure that that in Supabase, that old information gets deleted and the new information is the one being stored. So that helps with to keep everything up to date. So again, we have this here. We're going to connect this here, and then we're going to add our next step, which is a OneDrive step where we're actually going to download the file. So we download a file. We're going to download by the ID, which if you remember, we set the ID earlier in our edit field step. We're just going to grab the file ID, put it in here, and then that's going to allow us to download the file here. Just going to change the name here to download file, rename that. And then once we've downloaded the file, we're going to upload it to our database. So again, we're going to hit the plus button right here in the top right. We're going to type Supabase, and this is where you have to pay some attention here. You're not going to choose the first Supabase. You're going to choose the second Supabase where it says Supabase Vector Store. Because if you remember, we're taking our documents, we're vectorizing our documents using embeddings, and then we are going to use that later on to chat with our documents using our agent. So we're going to click Supabase Vector Store. We're going to click Add Documents to Vector Store. And we're going to grab this, bring it down here, and connect it to our OneDrive step earlier. Connect this here. Then again, we're going to use the same credential that we have before. That's already here. Insert documents. And then you should be able to grab your table from the section where it says table name. You should just be able to choose your table, choose documents, and then we're going to choose our embedding model. So our embedding model is what actually it's what translates our text documents into embeddings, into vectors, into numbers essentially. So we're going to use OpenAI embeddings. This model here, text embedding 3 small is fine. I'm going to take that, put this over here. And then we also need to choose a document loader. We're just going to choose the default data loader. What we want to include here is metadata. So metadata, again, if you remember from Supabase, if we go back into our table, metadata is this column here. And this is where we're going to store stuff like the file URL, the name of the file, all that information it's data about data basically is what metadata is. So that's where we're going to store all of that in the metadata section. And the way that we get our stuff into the metadata section is that we go into our default data loader and we go into the options section. We choose add an option, choose metadata, we add a property. We're going to add file name, and we're going to just grab this file name from earlier, drag and drop that here. This is actually really important, and this got me in trouble a lot of times, or this had me stuck a lot of times. You want to make sure you go into the Supabase section, because a lot of times there will be no rows to delete, right? So if you are uploading a new file, then there are no rows to delete in Supabase, and so this node won't output any data. But we always need it to output something so that we can then reference earlier nodes in our later nodes. I don't know if that's making sense to you guys. Because if we don't, okay, I'm going to show you now. So if I open this, right, I go into settings. I want to make sure I click this here, always output data. So make sure you have this on. Otherwise, you won't be able to actually reference your edit fields node in your later steps, right? Because then this node would act sort of like a a buffer or a wall between this earlier node and this later node because it wouldn't pass the data on. So we need to always pass the data on. So make sure you go in here, make sure you click settings, and make sure you click always output data. And then we go into our default data loader. We get file name. We also grab the file URL. And then we should be fine with that. File name, file URL. We can add file ID also if we want. But this is just information that gives our agent a little bit more information about the data that we're pulling. So we have our default data loader here, and we're going to choose a text splitter. So you can just choose a recursive character text splitter. This is just a way to break down the chunks, basically. So we're just breaking the chunks down, right? So we have that big document going in, and we're splitting it up into chunks. This is just the way that we're splitting the chunks up. So we're just going to choose the recursive character text splitter. This tells us the size of each chunk, and this tells us the overlap of each chunk. So you may want to play with this value. I'm not gonna do that now, but you may want to change this value maybe to 100 or 200 or something like that. All this means is that if you choose 100, then I believe 100 of the characters that are in, imagine you have the first chunk of the document, the second chunk of the document with 0 overlap, then that means that those are 2 completely different chunks. But if we have chunk overlap of 100, let's say, I'll put this to be 100, then what will happen is the last 100 characters in the first chunk will be the first 100 characters in the next chunk. So it kind of helps with a little bit of continuity. So you can play around with that if you want, but you don't have to. So I'm going to click 0 here. And yeah, that's everything here. So this is our RAG pipeline set up. And again, I'm going to drag this here back to the beginning, just so if you guys have any situations where you have a lot of documents being uploaded, you can use this for multiple documents. So this is the RAG pipeline built out, and now we're going to build out the agent. For the agent, we need to connect a trigger node, something that's going to cause the agent to start. So we're going to say add another trigger. We're going to choose on chat message. So this way we can talk to our agent. I can even click this, make chat publicly available. Go here, connect this here, go into our AI agent. We need to choose a chat model. We're going to choose OpenAI for this. GPT-4o Mini. I'm going to choose 4.1 Nano for this. Just so we have a fast model, a fast brain in here. And then we have the memory here, and then we're going to give it a tool as well to search our vector store. So I can just go into vector stores. I can click Supabase vector store, and then I'm going to add the embeddings as well, so it knows how to match our question to the documents in the database. Embeddings, same thing. Text embeddings 3 small is fine. Well, this tool is really important because it lets our agent know, or this step is really important because this description is what our LLM is going to look at in order to know how to use tools. So I'm just going to use this here, use RAG to look up information in the knowledge base. That's how our agent will know how to use this tool and what to use it for. Again, we're going to grab our table from here, documents, and this should be good here. And then we're going to want to go in our agent itself and change the prompting. First of all, you have the user prompt, which is the message from the user. And then we have a system prompt, which tells us which is what tells the agent how it should act, right? So in order to add a system prompt, we just go to add option, system message, and you see it already comes pre-filled as your helpful assistant. I'm going to make this a little bit more specific and just add some information here. You are a highly skilled legal assistant trained to support attorneys by analyzing complex legal documents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you can go through and you can prompt it yourself however you want it to be prompted. And so that's what we're going to do here for this AI agent step. And that should be everything. Okay, cool. So that is it. That's your first AI application. Let's go through and do a little demo now so you can see that it works and how it works. So we have our first step here where our file is created. Again, we're just watching this. You have to remember that this is going to run automatically once we turn our application on. But we can see we're grabbing our PDF here, our Brown versus Board PDF. We have our loop that's going to loop over all of the items that are inserted. We run that. We have our set field step where we set our file ID, file name, file URL, all that good stuff. We have our Supabase step where we delete any rows with the files with the same file ID as the file we're uploading, so we make sure we have no duplicates here. Then we're going to download our file using our file ID from earlier step. Okay, so we've downloaded the file here, and then we are going to upload that file into Supabase. I forgot one important step. I forgot to extract the text from the PDF before I uploaded it to our vector store. So what we have to do here is go to this step, the download file step. We're going to type in extract from file. We're going to choose extract from PDF. And then we're just going to connect this here, and then we're going to connect this step to our Supabase step. So now, if we do this again, we can run this step, and now we're going to extract the text from the PDF file. And that way, once we take the text out, then we can upload the text into our vector store. So we can see here, we have extracted all of the text from our document. We have all the text here in this section here. And then we are going to upload all of that text into our vector store. We're going to see this running, see the embeddings running, everything getting embedded into the vector store. And so what's really cool is we can go back now into Supabase. We can open this up. We can go into our table, our documents table. We can refresh this. Yeah, and as you can see, it just came in. But now you can see the entire PDF has been split up into chunks. All of these chunks have metadata. So if we open up the metadata, we can see the length of the chunk. But we also can see our metadata that we inserted earlier in the default data loader. So we see the file ID is here, the file URL is here, and the file name is here as well. We have our metadata in here, and then we have our embeddings. Again, this is how the computer stores the data as this long string of numbers. I could open this up a bit so you guys can see it, but this is going to go on forever. It's more than 1,000 numbers that it uses to store the information here. But we've uploaded everything to our vector database, and then now we can go again to our agent and we can ask questions about these documents. And so now we have our documents uploaded into our vector store. We can open the chat message here, and we can, actually, let me show you guys how you do this. All right, chat. So again, all we're going to do is going to go into this open chat button here, and we can ask a question to our agent pertaining to the documents in our folder. So I can say, who was the Chief Justice in this case? And I can see here the answer was returned. The Chief Justice in this case, Brown versus Board of Education, was Justice Earl Warren. So that's basically it. You've gone through, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, you would have gone through and you would have built your first AI application that you can use practically for your firm. Start getting some more information out of your documents. Obviously, you can tweak this and change this in any way that you need to. First of all, thank you for watching this video. Thanks for following all the way through. If you've gone through and you followed all the steps, then you will have a working AI application for your firm. You'll have an assistant that you can train on specific documents to help you out. If you are a solo attorney and you want my personal help in building these things out, there's a link in the description. You can click on that if you want. So that's everything for this video. Hopefully, if you never built out an AI application before, you would have done so at the end of this video. And if you already have built some out, hopefully this was a good refresher on some really important and central topics in AI engineering and AI development. So if you did like this video, believe it or not, there is a button for that. You can click on that. You can leave a like, subscribe, comment. Let me know any suggestions for things that you want me to build, or any questions that you have, or any issues that you have. Let me know all that in the comments. Yeah, I want to thank you guys a lot. Thanks for actually taking the time to watch this video. Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing day.